This is Rummy's Corner. Coming up this Saturday, the 9th of May, from the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester, in a heavyweight championship fight that will be available live exclusively on DAZN. Former IBF heavyweight champion Daniel Dubois will challenge WBO heavyweight champion Fabio Wardley. This is a damn fine heavyweight matchup, one that is guaranteed to provide fireworks. And honestly, I see it as a true 50-50 pick'em type of fight. Both of these guys are explosive power punchers, as cleverly implied in the Don't Blink billing. Two heavyweights, one shared goal, but two trajectories that could not be any more different. Their arrival at this moment is a collision of vastly different paths. 10 years ago, Wardley was working a 9-to-5 job as a recruitment consultant, and after a few white-collar fights, he decided to turn pro and is now the undefeated reigning WBO heavyweight champion. By comparison, Dubois had a much more traditional path, with many amateur fights, winning junior titles and such. A stark contrast to the storybook rise of Fabio. Just over 2 years ago, Wardley was engaged in a tremendous war against Fraser Clark. Going in, it was widely viewed as nothing more than a regional scrap, but it was between two undefeated heavyweights, and the clash of styles wound up producing a very entertaining and competitive encounter. The fight officially ended in a draw. At that time, Wardley had not done a whole lot to improve his standing as a serious player on the world stage. Less than 7 months later, these two had a rematch, and Wardley made a big-time statement with a devastating explosion of force, brutally stopping Clark in the opening round. It was a truly frightening display of mean, raw firepower. After that, Wardley went up against the undefeated, highly regarded Justice Hooney. That wound up being an extremely difficult fight for Wardley, one that saw him get thoroughly outboxed throughout most of the contest. At times, Hooney was really lighting Wardley up, but to his credit, Wardley bided his time, he hung in there and persevered, and he never stopped trying to discover a way to effectively deliver his tremendous power. It finally happened about midway through the 10th. Hooney charged in, and Wardley decked him with a beautifully timed short right. Hooney was down, he was hurt, he struggled to get up, and by the time he did, the ref had waved it off, and the fight was over. In his most recent fight last October, Wardley squared off against former WBO champion Joseph Parker. The interim WBO title was on the line, and Parker was on a terrific winning streak against top contenders like Deontay Wilder, Big Bang Jong, and Martin Bakole. It wound up being a very competitive fight where each man was having his share of moments, but Parker began absorbing a tremendous prolonged beating near the end of the 10th. And that beating continued into round 11, where Parker was receiving an awful lot of punishment, which prompted the referee to wave it off. With that victory, Wardley won the WBO interim title, which theoretically earned him a shot at Usyk. But instead, Usyk vacated the belt, Wardley was promoted as the real McCoy, and now he is prepared to defend that title against Dubois. After Dubois lost his first fight for a major championship, his first bout with Usyk, he bounced back and did so in style, diving right in against a dangerous opponent in the form of Jarrell Big Baby Miller. For the most part, Dubois was able to outwork and out-hustle Miller, but it wasn't always easy. Miller tried making it rough and imposing his will, but Dubois remained unfazed. Late in the 10th and final round, Dubois had Miller hurt, and he was battering him all around, which prompted the referee to stop it. After that, Dubois went up against Filip Hrgović, and the IBF interim title was on the line in that one. Hrgović got off to a strong start in that one, landing some very heavy shots in the early going, but Dubois was undeterred. Before long, Dubois was battling his way back into the fight, where he landed a lot of hard clubbing shots of his own. Hrgović was badly cut around the eye, and these cuts quickly worsened as Dubois continued clubbing away. Eventually, the ringside physician decided he didn't like what he saw, and he waved it off. This put Dubois in a position for another title shot against Usyk, but instead, Usyk vacated that belt, and Dubois was promoted to the real thing. In his first defense of the IBF Championship, Dubois went up against former two-time unified heavyweight champion, the one and only Anthony Joshua. This one quickly evolved into a complete and total mismatch of epic proportions. Dubois simply had too much firepower for AJ, and he managed to drop AJ time and time again. 4 times in total, the last of which scored a beautiful highlight reel knockout. It was a career-defining victory for Dubois, who had successfully defended his IBF championship. This dynamite victory paved the way to the Usyk rematch, where once again, Usyk proved too smart, too skilled, and too clever, easily outboxing Dubois before scoring a devastating highlight reel knockout of his own. And that is where we stand. Here we are. Either one of these guys has the power that he could knock the other's lights out. As the fight poster advises, don't blink, because it could happen in a flash at any moment. Dubois has already proven that he could bounce back from a devastating knockout loss against Usyk. He's done it before. At the time, I thought Miller was a terrible choice of a comeback opponent for Dubois, but Dubois outworked and out-toughed him. Then he went in there against the undefeated, hard-hitting, granite-chinned Hrgović, and he outgunned him and cut him up to get the stoppage. Following that, many people viewed his bout with AJ as if it were a coronation for AJ becoming a 3-time champion, and instead, Dubois destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him. Back when Wardley had his draw against Clark, not too many were expecting that he had a very bright future in the sport. But Wardley has stepped up to every challenge he's been presented with since then, starting with the rematch stoppage against Clark, and then the dramatic knockout against Hooney, and the stoppage against Parker. Wardley's loudest critics have not been overly impressed. After all, Clark was never a top 10 heavyweight. Hooney himself may have been borderline top 10-ish, but he was still more of a promising prospect, and worse yet, he gave Wardley all sorts of problems. Hooney was absolutely brilliant at points in that bout against Wardley, and his loudest detractors claim it was a lucky punch, some adding that he was fortunate that Hooney lacks a really good chin. Then the Parker fight, a lot of people still believe the stoppage win against Parker was premature, and that is not just limited to critics of Wardley. A lot of people feel that way. In other words, a lot of people believe that Dubois has faced and beaten better competition. He has bounced back from devastating knockout losses against Usyk, and that his more traditional boxing background makes this a safe comeback fight following his second loss to Usyk. But the flip side to all that is this. Wardley has shown steady improvement. Even in the first fight with Clark, things were often not going his way, but he never stopped battling, even when things did get rough. He made quick work of Clark in the rematch, but then he was having all those difficulties against Hooney. A lot of people view this as a negative, but it's worth considering that Hooney is one of the most technically gifted tacticians in the heavyweight division today. Hooney is highly skilled and very talented. Even though things were going as bad as could be, Wardley didn't fold. He kept battling, and ultimately, he persevered and overcame. While critics may view that all as a negative, I personally view the entire experience as an astounding positive. Then with Parker, at that time, no one was more deserving of a shot at Usyk than Parker was. He was on an incredible winning streak. He was Usyk's de facto #1 contender, and Wardley looked excellent in that fight, boxing on fairly even terms against a solid all-around elite heavyweight like Parker. Wardley boxed better in this one than he had against Hooney, and he had Parker hurt several times in that one. A lot of people believe the stoppage was early, I wasn't one of them. I honestly didn't think it was that bad. Maybe a little early, but Parker was enduring a great deal of punishment and he wasn't firing back much. When you look at the beating he was taking at the end of the previous round, combined with the fact he wasn't offering a whole lot of resistance during the prolonged barrage from Wardley, I didn't think it was a bad stoppage. I really do believe that this is a true 50-50 pick'em fight, but for my official prediction, I am taking Fabio Wardley by knockout, and I'll tell you why. I think Wardley is mentally tougher, and I do believe that will become a decisive factor here. Wardley is mentally more consistent when things are not going his way, and he is better at maintaining his focus, which by extension amplifies his determination and his will to win. The two fights with Usyk, the two fights where things were seriously not going Dubois' way, he did not respond the way Wardley has under similar circumstances. Even the fight with Joyce years back. Wardley is not the most skilled guy out there, but you cannot question his self-belief. Dubois might be technically better than Wardley, but is Dubois really technically more sound than Parker? Wardley is skilled enough and sneaky enough that I believe Dubois will eventually find himself in a war of attrition, and at that point, I believe Wardley's will wins the day. So officially, I am taking Fabio Wardley by 7th round knockout, but as always, what the hell do I know? I ain't exactly Quasimodo over here, but I am extremely fired up for this one and truly believe that it's one of the best fights that can be made in all of heavyweight boxing right now. This should be one hell of a fight and I cannot wait. Best of luck to both Wardley and Dubois. Right around the corner, this Saturday, the 9th of May, Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois, live, exclusively on DAZN. For those without an active subscription to DAZN, click the link in the description and use my code RUMMY5 to get a 5% discount on this pay-per-view. And with DAZN having such a stacked lineup these next couple of months, it is truly a great time to get DAZN Ultimate. Details below. So who do you think will win the upcoming fight between Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.
You know, Quasimodo predicted all this.
Who did what?